Okay, folks, I'm back. And you can see I changed locations here. I have to charge my battery on my camera. But again, like I was saying at the end of part 2, you literally, with a few exceptions, you have basically the same storyline in WWE that you had in TNA. With a few exceptions, like I said this past Monday, you have the same storyline. And everybody pretty much figured out what was the storyline when it came to AJ and Dixie and Clara and Frankie and Christopher. What was the storyline? Oh, that's right. It was mainly centered around Daniels proving he's better. Daniels and Kazarian, if not mostly Daniels, wanted to ruin AJ's life because Daniels, I guess, wanted to prove himself better. I don't know. Right? Something like that. It's the same thing here. Vicky and Dolph are basically doing this to ruin AJ and Cena's life because, one, Vicky's upset at the fact that AJ was the general manager and she wasn't. And two, Dolph wants to prove he's better than Cena and essentially, as we've seen before in the past, wants to prove he should be the face and franchise of the company. How many times have we seen this throughout the years of wrestling? We've seen it in WCW. We've seen it in the WWE when it was WWF. We've seen it in TNA. We've seen it in Ring of Honor. Hell, I can guarantee you the fans have seen it in Japan, in New Japan, and Old Japan. I'm sure the fans have seen it in CMLL and AAA in Mexico. The truth of the matter is, how many times have we seen this kind of storyline? With the exception, they always add something new to it. Or they always add a different way or different aspect to it. Or a different interpretation, I should say. How many times have we not seen that? We've seen it plenty of times. And it's always the same end result. The face of the company, the franchise of the company, the good always overcomes. So basically you're doing this because, one, according to some sources, they want to make Ziggler a viable champion, a viable, worthy champion in the future. So essentially you're using someone like John Cena and possibly a losing effort just to springboard Ziggler to that next level so he can cash in and become champion. Now, I admit, according to what they said at the Bleacher Report, I'd be surprised if they let Ziggler go over Cena here. But we all know that's not going to happen. We all know that. We all know that Ziggler is going to probably go over Cena, in a dirty finish and all that, but not a clean way. We all know that come TLC, should the match happen, and it will, that Cena will be Ziggler. We know that AJ will eventually be Tamina, and that AJ will get her hands on Vicky. Those will probably be the only exceptions. But basically, you take all those exceptions out, it's the same storyline. And why? Because WWE Creative, as I said in part 1, shot themselves in the foot when they did this whole situation with CM Punk and everything else that's followed. They shot themselves in the foot. That is why they're doing the same things over and over again. That is why they're stealing certain things from TNA or ripping off certain things from TNA. That is why they're rehashing, if you will, what it looks like to be the NXT invasion or Nexus invasion from 2 years ago. That is why they're doing it, because they're desperate. And it all centers around one reason. And you can agree with this and you can disagree with this. It centers around the fact that CM Punk, in my opinion, his heel turn came too soon. They should have waited until at least after Survivor Series and into December and into January to do it, because it would make more sense. Or heck, if you wanted to, like I said, you could, in part 1, you could have done it by turning Rock heel. And how do you turn Rock heel? By having the master of the pipe bomb, if you will, come out and say, hey, if you were really the people's champion, you would put this whole movie career to rest. You would focus on wrestling. You would focus on trying to prove you are the best by competing in this ring every week and every night. Essentially call out Rock on that. Basically call him out on the fact that he'd rather be a movie star than be the people's champion. Call him out on that, and I guarantee you, folks, I guarantee you that would have worked out better. Or, like I said, if you wanted to go with the heel turn, You could have done it slowly. You could have done it slowly starting after Survivor Series. You could have done that. But you didn't. But WWE didn't. They didn't do that. And why? Because they were desperate. This is what you get when you decide, hey, we need to end our Raw 1000 episode, our 1000th episode of Raw on a shocking note. How do we do it? Oh, I know. Let's have CM Punk GTS The Rock. Okay, fine. But, okay, fine. Let's have him do that. But as I said, even after he did that, people still cheered him. They still cheered him. Yes, they booed anytime he may have said something bad about The Rock. But they still cheered him. And why do they still cheer him? Because, and even now they still cheer him, like they popped in Dayton for him. Real simple. You can say, oh, well, Dayton's an RH town, an ECW town. Big difference. Not big difference, but big deal. The big deal. They're an RH ECW town. I get that. Big deal. But the thing is, whether they're a wrestling town, an RH ECW town, or not, or even if they're a WWE town, or even a WCW town, they're still going to pop for the guy because they still view him as a babyface. You can have him, like I said in part 1, in the first video, you can have him, along with who he's associated with, in this case Paul Heyman, you can have them all do this heelish antics and stuff, and yet he still gets cheered. And why does he get cheered? Because it's too soon for him to be a heel. Yes, they'll probably stop booing him and hating on him more as we get closer to the Rumble because of his match with The Rock, but still, fans are going to view him as a face because you did it too soon. And then, going back to Vicky Guerrero, I mean, I'm a fan of Vicky, don't get me wrong, but do you have to constantly rehash her being an authority figure? I mean, how many times have we seen that? And you're saying, and you're having Vince come out and say, oh, it's only temporary. How long was Vicky's temporary general managementship on SmackDown the first time she got it? Let's see, her temporariness became permanent. So unless you're going to follow through on this and bring somebody else in, and you might as well, being creative and being desperate for interesting storylines, you might as well just scratch temporary off the list and put permanent. The thing is, what I'm trying to say here is WWE, the creative team, needs to wake up. They need to have a slap in the face, if you will, like that. They need to have somebody slapping them across the face so many times to wake them up and realize you cannot do the same shit over and 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 over again. You cannot go out and rip off somebody else's storyline, put your own little interpretations in it, just because you're desperate. You cannot go out, even if he approved it or not, you cannot, or agreed to it or not, you cannot go out and take your second, if not your top babyface at times, and turn him heel because you're desperate. You need something. You can't do that. And you want to speak about ripping off. One last thing, and this may be minor, but I mentioned it I think I mentioned it in my Survivor Series review as well as in my reactions. Here's the thing. Eve Torres, the Divas Champion. Have you noticed what she's been doing lately? Does this answer your question? Yeah, she's doing that now. Let's see, who was doing that just recently over in Impact Wrestling and TNA? Who was doing that recently? Madison Rayne. And despite how you feel about her, like Jeff Schlegel, he doesn't really like her. He always goes, Madison Rayne, all the time he sees her. But still, I think Jeff would agree, Jeff Schlegel, the Shug Daddy, would agree that they're ripping off that as well because they're desperate. for certain things. Yeah, they're desperate. And then the way you make Eve win the match, she wins it like, oh, I just won the pageant. I just won Miss USA or Miss Universe. I mean, what's next? What's next? You're going to have her do what Madison did and complete the ripoff by having her wear a sash and a crown, a tiara, if you will? I wouldn't be surprised. The thing is, again, WWE creative, that creative team needs a slap in the face to wake them up and realize they need to do stuff differently. They need to realize, and hopefully somebody does realize and wake up and realize, oh shit, we messed up. We messed up by turning our second, if not top babyface and CM Punk heel when we should have waited. We messed up by putting someone that we want to look unbeatable and indestructible in a title match, basically in a win-lose situation, to where we want to keep the belt on our champion, but we don't want an unstoppable monster to look, unstoppable monster to look beatable. The thing is, WWE needs to wake up and realize there's a time and place for certain things, and the time and place for CM Punk's heel turn was not Raw 1000. It should have been after Survivor Series. Ryback, they should have waited on that. They should have put him, possibly made him the unbeatable monster, like everybody's been saying, and put him in the Rumble and let him win it, and give him a title shot at WrestleMania, if not sooner. There was a time and place to do something with Cena, AJ, Vicky, and Dolph. Or if not just Cena and Dolph. And you know what? Hey, take out the whole rip-off of the AJ storyline. Take off the whole copying the AJ style storyline. And you know what? Cena and Dolph, hey, that's fine. Everybody agrees. That's a perfect first time ever match. Go with it. Go with it. That's fine. That's great. That's perfect. You don't need... Sorry there. I'm just thinking. Just trying to think of what I'm going to say. The thing is, you don't need to constantly add in all this crap. You want to do AJ and Tamina? Fine, that's great. No doubt you have a great Divas matchup. You want to build it to the point that if AJ wins, eventually she gets her hands on Vicky in a match? Fine, go ahead, do it. But you don't need to add in, you don't need to rip off another company's storyline and add in your own little interpretations here and there just because you're desperate, just because you shot yourselves in the foot. But because of one simple reason. And then as far as the NXT guys go, you want to bring them in, yeah, fine, bring them in at separate times. Make them surprise entrance in the Rumble. Make them surprise entrance in the Rumble. Don't do it like this. Don't try to rehash an NXT invasion or Nexus 2.0 invasion and probably instead of calling them Nexus 2.0, give them a different name like the Shield, just because you're desperate for ratings. It's because you're desperate. And that's my dog in the background. She's barking at something. But you don't do this. You don't do this kind of stuff because you're desperate. You plan it out. Hopefully WWE Creative will wake up now and realize it's time to start planning things out. Because right now, they're shooting themselves in the foot. And as Daniel Parkin has said, they're getting people to tune out the product. You're getting people like Off the Rope Show going, fuck this shit, we just wasted 3 hours. And you know what? That's another thing. Maybe this 3 hours deal wasn't the best deal ever. Maybe you know what you need to do? You can take that first hour and dedicate it to NXT if you want to put them over. Dedicate it to NXT if you want to put it over. And then go to Raw. That would make more sense. But no, you don't do that. You don't do that. And that's also what's kicking you in the ass. Sure, there's been some decent 3-hour Raws, I'll give them that. But still, you're kicking yourselves in the ass doing this shit. You know, folks, all I'm saying and hoping is that they wake up and realize it's time to be original and not desperate. That's all I'm going to say. Comment down below. Tell me what you guys think.